So when I think about roots rock, I think of the first and foremost to me comes through as the band. The band is the first band that I think of when I think of roots rock, and Americana and all that kind of stuff. But I also think of some other bands. You know, the Grateful Dead is another. Some of the jam bands like the Allman Brothers and the Grateful Dead, of course. Fish, maybe even can be considered there. So we're going to be talking about a little bit, but one of the ones that I really enjoy is Tom Petty. So, and one of my favorites is one of my favorite guitar players is Mike Campbell, and he certainly fits in the roots rock category, even though they came a little bit later. And so we're going to be talking a little bit about what he did, and then we'll also talk about, we'll do some of the jam band stuff, and I'll talk through how you can practice and what are some of the things you can do, and I'll try and muddle my way through it. Like I say, without any playing. But, let's go through the first one. So one of the characteristics of Tom Petty's songs and Mike Campbell's playing is its sparseness, and that's very true in roots rock. So linking where the guitar plays a role that is not, hey, everybody, look at me, I can shred on guitar. It's more like, how does what I'm doing, how do these little things I'm doing fit into the song? And you know, Mike Campbell is the king of that. So we're going to talk a little bit about what he did in Breakdown. And first, let's just give a listen to more or less what the song is. And I created this backing track. I'm going to share it in just a second. There, oh, that's not the one I wanted to. There we go. So this is the backing track, and we're just going to listen to it so I can check the levels as well, which it hopefully will help. So the song Breakdown, Tom Petty, very simple harmonically. These are the verses, right? So nothing complicated harmonically here at all. And it's also, one of the things that's really key about this song is how empty it feels. And so it's basically just got that electric piano going. And Mike is doing something just to enhance the song. It'd be totally wrong for him to, let me see if I can switch the view here. It'd be totally wrong for him to be, and there we go. It'd be totally wrong for him to be, you know, playing. Just adding so much sonically to it, even though those are the chords, right? It's just an A minor to a G. So there's nobody who's like really digging into that. He just found something really, really super sparse. And let me just kind of play what he was playing, and then we'll break it down. And then we'll talk about how he handled the solo, which is also very instructive. So it's very instructive, obviously coming up with something super iconic, very instructive. Something like that, right? So let's just play it a couple more times. Sorry, I got distracted there. 3, 4. Very simple, right? And you'll notice that the vibe is of the song, like I said, is very sparse, very kind of laid back. The guy is playing it cool. If you think about the words, if you think about the words here for a second, let's go close here. Oh, hello. If you think about the words of the song, the words are the guy is basically you know, getting the girl to break down, if you know what I'm saying. And he's given the vibe like he doesn't care all that much, right? It's really laid back. And so the guitar part has to reflect that, which it does. Now, what's interesting to me, so it's very empty. But it also kind of swings a little bit, which is a contrast to the way that Tom Petty's singing it. So it gives you a little bit of a contrast there. Again, it'd be very different if he did some fast lick or something. You know, that doesn't really make a lot of sense. So, all right. Okay. Let's now take a look at, so that's, you know, there's a real lesson there. You don't have to play chords just because there's chords that are written. Sometimes just playing something really simple, you know, those little licks like, you know, stuff like that. Often very, very instructive and easy to do. And because there's only 2 chords, you know, you can just kind of, you can just kind of chug along a little bit. In this case, an A minor pentatonic would work really well. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to go to the solo, which is a little bit different, and we'll talk about how it's a little bit different and how a guitar player would approach something like this. Because if you think about what a guitar solo does, and here I am back, let's see, I'm going to change that camera. Okay, so the solo is a little bit different. Let's move this down just a little. There we go. Okay. I don't know what just happened there, but I don't like it. There. Okay, all sorts of stuff that's not happening here. There we go. Okay, that's what I wanted to do. Okay, sorry about that. So let's look at it a little bit different. Here's a solo section. Same chords almost. Okay, so what's different, obviously, is this little break where the band kind of goes out and it's just the guitar. And the other thing that's different is Tom Petty is not singing, right? So, and this may seem obvious to folks, but because what the guitar solo is it's a break in the song so that they can play longer. They can do the same things. When you write a song, a lot of times you write something that's really simple, people get bored with it after a short amount of time, so you have to break it up. So one of the ways of breaking that up is to put in a guitar solo. So the guitar solo will sometimes have a contrary melody, or it'll have a little different melody. So that's one thing. But also, sonically, Mike has to take up a little more space. And so we're going to show how he did that. I'll play it, and then we'll go through it, okay? I'll do my best to play it. We'll see if I can. Oh, there's one other thing I wanted to say. And that is, very often we add a little bit of gain, and you'll notice that's another thing that he did. Turned up the, in this case, I just turn up my volume a little bit. I always set my amp so that there's a breakup when I have it at 10, and then I turn the volume down. That's how I usually, you know, play that sort of rock. All right, let's give this a shot. 2, 3, 4. Sorry. Let's try that again. Having all kinds of problems with the sound here today. I think it's my noise gate. I have a problem with the noise gate. I got to get, I think it's the effect that's going, pedal that's going as well. All right, let's try this one more time. Sorry about that. Okay, so pretty straightforward and simple, but there's a couple of things that we're doing here that are a little bit different because it's a solo and because there's no singer and because our responsibility is to take up a little more space, at least during the solo. I already told you about one, turning it up a little bit, adding a little gain. You can do that with a pedal. Again, I prefer to simply, especially for classic rock, just to set my amp so that I have a semi-lead tone when I have it on 10 on my guitar. And then for the verses, I turn it down and often turn onto a different pickup too, but I turn it down. And on the lead, all I have to do then is turn it up. And that's what I've done. You may stomp on a pedal, but just be careful, especially with classic rock. So many players use so much gain, it's terrible. So don't be one of those guys who just stomps on a distortion pedal. All right, so that's number one. Number two is there's this little fill, right? So he doesn't just do. He also, instead of Tom Petty singing, he does this little trick, right? Just a little lick in A minor, right? Okay. Then the other thing is when the band steps out, he has to step up sonically. So there's a number of different ways you can do that. Mike Campbell's preferred way was to play double stops and open notes. So that's what he does, and he gets busy here, right? Right, so what is he doing there? First of all, he's using some double stops. Second of all, he's moving up the neck, so he ends very high, right? Which is also a classic thing to do in a solo. You end your solo on a high note. He plays a little chord there too, but that uses a lot of space. That takes up a lot of space there. All right, let's take a look at some of the questions, but we're going to go over the tab here, and let's see if we can do that. Ta-da, there we go. Yeah, so here's the main lick, and we'll go over that in just a second, but first let me answer some questions if anybody has. Hi, Mark, I'm just learning the good, the bad, and the ugly. I'm having trouble with the part where it sends quickly. Any tips you can give? The good, the bad, and the ugly from the movie? I don't know. Take it slowly and don't practice mistakes. Take it very, very slowly. Set your metronome for half of the speed that you think you can do it at. If you think you can do it at full speed, set it for 50% and see if you can do it. And don't make any mistakes. Don't go on up to 55% speed until you make 0 mistakes, and play it 3 times perfectly. Then you can move up and just keep doing that. That's the way to do it. All right. Having morning. Sounds fine. Okay, cool. All right. Okay, I don't see any others, so let's just go. Sergio Leone. Yes, great stuff. All right, let's just take a look, and we'll go over this lick. So the lick itself, pretty simple. This is the main lick, and it's over an A to G. Remember, we're just playing that. We're not playing that, but the keyboard is kind of playing. You know, keyboard's kind of doing something like that. So this lick kind of comes over there. So here it is right here. This is the first part. Let's see if I can even. There we go. Do 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 do. Right. All right. And then there's a little filler here. Right. There's a little filler there. And then it just repeats, right? So that's all that is. So again, there's a lot of space that's there. It doesn't look like it on here, but you can see there's a lot of notes. Like this note is sounded for a long time. So is this. There's just a lot of space in that. Then let's take a look at the solo. And the solo starts out with the same lick, right? There's the lick, and then there's a little fill. The fill we already talked about. Unfortunately, it goes on to 2 lines, which I can't show you, so we'll just do it on the guitar. It's just A minor pentatonic. And by the way, this is something that a lot of players do, playing a note and coming directly down or going directly up instead of using the in-between notes. So instead of going, we might go. Sounds very Dickie Betts, right? All right, anyway. Now here's the double stop lick right here, and you can see we're playing double stops on the 5th, right? It's kind of like an A minor there. And then here's where it ascends. There we go. And notice that he's using this open E. So that's a characteristic of a lot of Mike Campbell songs, or a lot of Mike Campbell stuff that he does where he uses drone notes. Yeah, so I think American Girl does that. I think so. Mary Jane's Last Dance definitely does. It's a great effect. So, and it sounds great in roots rock. It's definitely all over folk. If anybody out there plays folk, you know that there's a there's a lot of stuff like that. There's a lot of stuff where you're using drone notes, so kind of goes in and comes from folk. All right, so I think I'm ready to move on. Like I said, if you're a member, you get the backing tracks and you get the tab and you get a lot of other stuff with this. So, anyway, I would encourage you to do that. 10% off today if you want to become a member. Link in. I want to move on to talking a little bit about the Grateful Dead while I chase down this terrible buzzing, and it's not the chord. So I've checked out the chords. And I thought I had it fixed, and getting hit with like 3 or 4 things last night and today on the sound. So anyway, sorry about that buzzing every once in a while. That's what I know what it is, and I can really do. I guess I could just take it off, but I tried doing that this morning. Anyway, never mind. So let's talk a little bit about the Grateful Dead. If there are no questions. When playing Ennio, you must throw away the rule book, 100% emotion. Okay? I don't know who Ennio is. All right. 100% emotion. That's a tough thing to do when you don't know how to play. So when you're learning to play, just feel it, man. That's tough. That's tough advice to give. It's tough advice to use, I think. All right. Let's talk a little bit about the jam band stuff. One of the things that's really helpful if you want to play in a jam band is to learn how to play over something really simple, right? And very often it's just a vamp over a single chord. Just a vamp over a single chord. And the most common chord to vamp over is a 7th chord, a dominant 7th chord. And it was very common in Grateful Dead. So here I'll show you the style I'm talking about. Now I have to adjust the volume and make sure it's right. So bear with me here. Right? Stuff like that, right? Okay. So if you listen very carefully, that's really just a vamp over a single chord. Yeah, and often, yeah, that's right. Fire in the Mountains like that. And Richard, yeah, Blue Sky is just 2 chords for that jam. It's just really 2. Now, Blue Sky is a little more melodic because you're playing over the 1 and the 4. You know, I don't remember what key it's in, but you know, it's sort of like, let's say it's in the key of E, which a lot of the Allman Brothers was. You know, something like that, where you're just going from the 1 to the 4 chord. So the Fire on the Mountain stuff is just a slightly more edgy version because you're playing over, the 2 chords you're playing over are the 4 and the 5. So, and we'll talk about that. And one of the reasons why, some of you may have heard that, like, Jerry Garcia used the Mixolydian mode a lot. And that's why, because if we're playing, like, that chord happened to be a G7. And every once in a while, there's like an F note that's in there. So it's kind of like you're throwing in the F chord. Now, if you look in the keys, you'll find that G being a major chord, or a 7, dominant 7th, and F being a major chord only occurs in one key, and that's the key of C. All right. So since G is the 5th, it would be a G Mixolydian mode that you'd use for that. So we'll talk about, like, okay, so when it's 1 chord vamp, how can we play over those different things? What are the choices that we have to something like that Grateful Dead sort of thing that we were playing before? And let's talk first about what are the note choices that we have that are going to make it sound kind of good, and what can we do? All right? Well, first of all, this is rock. It's not going to sound very Grateful Dead, but if we're playing over a G7, one of the things that we can always do as rockers is to use the minor pentatonic, right? So I'm going to get that out of the way. It's not something I would use very much because it's not going to create something very melodic. It's going to be it's rhythmic though, and it's kind of edgy. So we can play something, once in a while we can use that G minor pentatonic. But I think in something like this funky sort of jam, it just doesn't sound right to be using that minor pentatonic all the time. So you'll notice I was throwing in some other things there. So what were some of those other things that I was throwing in? All right. So first, the first thing that we want to be able to do is literally to be able to play over a G7 chord. So we're playing 1 chord. We ought to be able to find all the G7s, or a lot of G7s if we can, or at least Gs, right? So, you know me, I'm Mr. Triad. So I'm Mr. Triad. So I look for all the triads, and then I look for the 7th chords that are associated with those. So here's a triad right here. and I added the seventh. So here's another seventh chord based on this triad. Here's another seventh chord. The you know, Born in the Bayou sort of chord associated with that. And so, you know, I can play different lines. Those are just lines that are based on those seventh chords. Here's another one. A shape, right? So we can just kind of dance between those chords, and that's cool. Nothing wrong with that. So that's one of the things we can do. I'm going to just give you a little bit of a thing. Richard, did something, a lesson package. So I want to be careful. The membership is not a lesson package. You do have lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of lessons and courses, but it's not a lesson package. This is an experience. And we do a lot of, there's a lot of coaching and there's a lot of stuff like that that's on there. So if you want to check it out, you can check it out. There's not as much dead style stuff on there, I would say, because it's not something that I don't have a course specifically on doing a Grateful Dead, but we certainly talk a lot about this sort of stuff. All right, but you can check it out. Okay, so let me demo a little bit of that, just kind of dancing between seventh chords, okay? No problem, Richard, appreciate it. Oh, oops, hold on a second.
Don't wait in line.
Now I've got to do this. I'm going to ask you if the guitar is loud enough in the mix. So if it's not loud enough in the mix, tell me, okay? All right, so you can see I'm just outlining chords there in different G7s like this one. Sorry. You know, that kind of stuff. Yeah. Anyway, there's that G7. So I'm just outlining G7 chords. So that's one way you can do that. And to me, that's a little more fun, and it's a lot more interesting than I think than just kind of playing minor pentatonic licks. So, you know, you can obviously use major pentatonics too. So that's another, you know, that's another option. But I want to show you another cool option, and this is one of my favorite options. Because we occasionally have an implied F chord in there, right? Because we've got that seventh. What I can sometimes do is use a F7 or an F. I can use two triads. I'm going to use a triad pair. And the triad pair is going to be a G and then the triad directly below it. So when you're vamping on a seventh chord, I don't care whether it's a G or an A, what you could do, let's say it's an A. This is exactly what Elliott Randall did in Reelin' in the Years. It's a vamp. It's essentially a vamp. It's a two-chord thing. It's a G to A, right? So he's using triad pairs, G and A, to move up and down the fretboard. It's pretty interesting. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do stuff like. Right, so I'm playing an F here. go up to a G, then come down an F, go up a G. And I don't have to do that predictable stuff. I could do, you know, something just a little bit different. I don't have to go all the way up or all the way down. But I'm using two pairs of triads here. It's like tequila, right? That's what it is. But we're using those two triads. And it works like a charm. So we're going to add that a little bit into here. And you'll see it sounds kind of similar. There's some similar things that I'm doing. All right, but it's a little flower. It's a little more flowing. So it's pretty neat, you know, doing that kind of stuff. Now, the last thing I want to show you is this. And people ask me a lot about modes, not as much as they used to, but I want to share with you something that, for me, I used to use a lot more than I do today, but I still use it today. And I used it all the time when I was younger. And I just kept my mouth shut about it because I thought I must be doing something wrong. But here's what I did, okay? You can play, and I said this, you can use the G Mixolydian mode. So the G Mixolydian mode is this right here. I'll play it for you, and then I'll explain what it is. Right? Okay, so it fits a G7 chord because all the notes are covered in that, right? The G, the B, the D, and the F are all in the scale that I just played. Okay, so because of that, that scale is called the G Mixolydian, whatever. But where does it come from? So here's where it comes from. A dominant seventh chord happens to be the 5 chord in a major scale. So we think backwards, and this is sort of reverse thinking. I'm a mathematician, so I'm used to doing this. So I asked the question, okay, if G is the 5, what's the 1 chord? Well, it turns out that if I count notes in the C major scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, G is the 5th note of the C major scale. So G is the 5 chord in the key of C. So here's what I do all the time. I never think, when I learned this stuff, I just learned the major scale. That's all I learned. So I learned that when you're playing over a G7, I can play the C major scale because G is the 5 chord in that. So all I need to know are my major scale patterns. That's all I need to know. So I can do that. And it works for every mode. Now, there's a lot of people who will say things like, well, it has to start on G and end on G. No, it doesn't. You can play the C major scale. You can, as long as you're thinking about chord tones and emphasizing chord tones, you don't have to start on a G and end on a G to do it. You could start on the 3rd. You could start on a B. Heck, you could even start on a D. Those are all going to sound really good when you're doing your solos. So You know, you don't have to do that, but you do have to be mindful that you're playing chords, and that's where the other stuff kind of comes in handy. But I'm just playing the C major scale over this. If I play the C major scale, I know I can just play the C major scale over this. Now, if I play it C to C, if I just play it like it's a scale, it's going to sound like a scale, and it's not going to be good. But if I let my ears kind of figure out where are the notes I'm trying to land, but using that framework of the C major scale, it's going to sound pretty good. So I'm going to sound a little more scaly here than I did in the last one because I won't be emphasizing chords as much. But I'll show you it works. Okay, here we go. So you see, it sounds a little more scaly when I'm playing it because I'm thinking in terms of a scale and thinking in terms of scale patterns, which is never a great thing to do. But it works, right? And I did that for many years. I think more about chords now when I play. But all of these approaches are reasonable. And yeah, it's true. You know what I think of it? It's sort of like... you know, it's G Mixolydian and C Ionian, right? For C major scale. It's the same notes. It's like you're eating alphabet soup, and it has the same letters in there. It has an A, it has a B, it has a C, it has a D, it has an E, an F, and a G, right? Because it's C major, so there's no sharps or flats. So you're looking at an alphabet soup that has the letters A through G, but you know, it's like you poured, when you're playing G Mixolydian, it's like you poured chicken broth in there. And when you're playing C Ionian, it's like you're drinking, it's like you're eating soup with tomato broth in there, right? And you know, maybe Dorian is beef broth. I don't know, but it's all the same notes, and a lot of this is just letting your ear figure it out. Okay, so the real key to doing this stuff is. I just talked to you about the notes, and so you can use a G chord, you can use this little trick of the triads, you can use the G Mixolydian, and heck, you can even show everybody you're a rock player by throwing in a minor pentatonic lick in there once in a while. But what really separates, I think, people are the rhythmic ideas. So to me, playing this sort of thing is all about different rhythmic ideas and different ideas that you can try. So, you know, one of the things that I like to do with this is, you know, kind of running those chords. You know, that sort of thing where I'm holding on one of the on the flatted sevenths. I like that. But another thing you can try is sort of doubling notes. That's really effective in this sort of style. You know, whatever, or playing double time like I just did there. There's not so much of that really shreddy, sort of pagey type stuff. that I was just playing. There's not so much of that. You can try double stops. Those work really nice. Chromatic notes are really great. Jerry Garcia used them a lot. You know, that kind of stuff. So there's lots of different things you can do with it. I'm just going to jam out a little bit, and then we'll answer some questions. Yeah, Billy Gibbons in there for a while. Now, Billy would have played it that way, right? This is Billy's jam. Billy played. You know, there you go. Billy would have been playing. Billy would have been playing that kind of stuff. Billy, it takes all kind of people to make the world go around, right? I'm glad we have Billy and Jerry. All righty, let's play just a little bit, and I'm going to have a little fun, and then we'll just hang out a bit. Put a little droning in here.
On Chewy, get a free $20 e-gift card with your...
Got the commercial in there. I tried to actually support this guy who did this backing track, and he's not available anymore. So unfortunately, I could only play it on YouTube. Here we go. That was kind of funny. Just too much fun playing that kind of stuff, that little funky stuff, and you've got all those different, options, and so it's fun to kind of explain. It's fun to explore them all, right? And just kind of play and immerse yourself into. Why have some of my old live streams disappear? I disappear them. They're available to members. So yeah. So, I keep them up for usually a couple weeks, and then I drop them. About any lessons you want. Yeah, Allman Brothers. All right. Okay. Geez. Okay. Well, I'm just hanging out now. I have a little bit of coffee, and maybe we'll do it like the old days where we just used to jam a bit. We just used to jam a bit. So, yeah, I don't know. Play some rootsy stuff. 2 notes going up the neck. Oh, the I don't remember what that was. You mean the that kind of stuff, or was it the with the drone, or was it just or was it that kind of stuff? Those are really kind of fun. Those little double stop lines. You know what makes it a lot easier is to think about triads and chords as you're doing that. You know, I try not to think too much when I'm playing. I try and think about the ideas, but the melodic ideas I'm trying for. But you know, if I'm playing this, here's my triad, right? My F, my G. Here's a C triad. Here's another F. But this works because D minor is kind of like an F, right? D minor, E minor. It's kind of like a C, F, C. So anyway, I can think about. Sorry. Do I ever learn the Mixolydian scale across the B and East strings up the neck? Let's see. Man, I wouldn't know that theme, but now I'm gonna have to check it out. Do I learn the Mixolydian across the B and E strings up the neck? So yeah, I've done that. But again, I would just learn the major scale, right? And then understand, like, okay, I'm playing the C major scale up here, so it. That would be the G Mixolydian up the neck on that scale. And then on this, I suppose, you know. You know, I'm better in some keys than others, honestly. I think that's true of everybody, even though they don't admit it. But I'm better in some keys than the others. But yeah, when you're doing these licks, you kind of have to. Again, I don't think too much in scale patterns. So to me, these licks were really greatly enhanced by understanding and thinking about, like, what chords are going to fit. And so here's another trick. Here's another trick, okay? I don't know if I still have that. I still have it up here. I'm going to play this, and this time I'm going to just pretend I'm playing rhythm, okay? Now I'm going to do something that you may or may not notice, but I'm going to try it, okay? I'm going to play rhythm, right? I'm not going to play the, I'm not going to play lead. what am I doing there? I'm just playing all the chords in the C major scale. I can play them all. I don't have to, as long as I stick on G, I can play, let's play clean. I should have played clean. As long as I end up on a G, right? Right? So I can play the F, C, G to get to that. And I can play anything I want in between. As long as it's in a chord in the key of C, I could play an A minor. I could play a B diminished. I probably wouldn't. But that's the same as a G7, right? Very similar to a G7, but it's the same in this little form. I could play a D minor. I could play an E minor. As long as I end on that G, it sounds good. So, or it sounds okay. I was playing something that was too busy for the song, but I prove a point. So I noticed I could do that, so why can't I just play all those chords? As long as I'm playing up the neck, I can play any of those chords, right? So I can play a C, I can play an F, I can play a G, I can play a F, I can play a G, I can play a C, I can play a D, D minor, I can play another C, right? So I can play all those notes. So I don't have to memorize the scale anymore. I can memorize, I can see simpler things. To me, understanding that this is a chord, an F chord, and a G chord, and a C chord, and a D minor chord, or an F chord, an E minor, that to me is a lot easier than memorizing other scale patterns. So it does take some time to practice to get used to it, but that, to me, that helps a lot, because I don't have to think, oh, the C major scale here is great. So now the notes in the C major scale right here are, so I could play, yeah, that works. And then I can play, and then, oh, but what's up here? Now I got to memorize this. So now I'm in this pattern, and where was I again? So to me, that just, I can't do that. But what I can do is say C triad, F triad, G triad, C triad, F triad, G triad, C triad, F triad, G triad. I can do that quickly. And so when I play stuff like, when I do that, I'm thinking triads. That's exactly what I'm thinking, triads. And so the same thing happens on those two strings. Right? So, and I've talked about that before, like when I navigate today, when I go up, well, B minor is not a chord in the key of C. B minor is not a chord in the key of C. So I wouldn't play B minor. You could get away with it. It would be okay. But B minor isn't a chord in the key of C. B diminished is. Right? And I was saying a B diminished is very similar to a G7 chord. All right. So now I'm going to tell you one more secret. That's right. Soul Man does that, basically. Right? That's what Soul Man does just in the rhythm. So I'm going to tell you another secret. This is one of those open secrets. Okay, if you take the key of C, or if you take any key, and we'll generalize it to any key, but we'll start with C. Take the key of C, you can represent every single note in the scale by 3 triads. The C triad, the F triad, and the G triad. The 1, the 4, and the 5 chord make up every possible, not every possible, but they make up all the notes in the C major scale. Let me show you. The C major scale has C, D, E, F, G. There's no H, right? So it goes back to A, B, and then we're back to C. Right? So the notes are C, D, E, F, G, A, and B. Okay, so let's just see what's in all of these. So, no, we're playing over G7. We're playing over a G vamp, right? But we're playing in the key of C. So, okay, no, but no problem. Okay, so the notes, if we take that G chord, that G triad, we've got a G, a B, and a D. That's 3 notes. They're all in A, B, C, D, E, F, G, right? B, D, and G. Okay, let's look at the F. Ooh, an F, that's new. An A, that's new. And a C, that's new. So that's 6 of the 7 notes right there. There's 6 notes of all the chords. And of course, C will have the missing one, right? C is a C chord has a C, and a C major triad has a C, an E, and a G. So it has that E that's there that the others are missing. So if you play G, C, F, and G, and just keep doing that, it's like you're playing in the C major scale. It's like you're playing all the notes in the C major scale. You got them all covered. And what's really cool, and one of the reasons why it works from going from the G to the F, is that all those notes are different, right? G has all different notes from that chord F. So when you do that, it gives your ear something totally different, and then you can come back to G and resolve, right? If we were playing in the key of C, if the C were the resolving chord, it's not in this. In this case, the G is the resolving chord, but it's in the key of C, right? So it resolves on that 5th. It's G mixolydian. That's all it's mixolydian. I'll go to that F. It's like something's off for a second, but then it resolves back. So yeah, anyway, it's just a little thing. You don't notice these things. I think I learned it in an old Robin Ford video. I didn't learn that, but he was saying, yeah, he was just playing over a G7 vamp, and he was just playing 3 triads. He was playing the C, he was playing the F, and he was playing the G, and resolving on the G. And then he did it in the key of C. He did it where the vamp was just over a C major chord. And same 3 chords, but he's resolving on the C. He's landing on the C. And it's the same notes, right? But you're just landing on the same thing. Also in a Dorian mode, I don't know I'm not sure what the question is. If you were playing a vamp on a D minor chord, right? And throwing in occasionally, or let's say you're playing, let's play something that's Dorian mode, yeah. Yes, same for any mode. Same for any mode. Let's say we're playing Pink Floyd, okay? I'll put on my, I should get my Strat out, but let's say we're playing Pink Floyd and we're playing Breathe. All right, so here my chords are D minor and G7. All right, now I could play a regular G there, but I played a G7. Okay, so D minor, G7. So what key is this? Well, it's D Dorian. Why is it D Dorian though? Why isn't it D minor? Okay, here's why. Because the second chord, that G7, doesn't appear in the F major scale, which is the equivalent of D minor, right? If we look at the chords of D minor, they're the same. I always convert to the major, to convert to the relative major. So if we look at the chords in the key of F, we have F, G minor, A minor, B flat, C, D minor, that's where it gets its name, and then E diminished. So G is not a seventh chord, it's a minor chord, right? So this would be that would be a D minor scale, but we didn't play that. We played. So it's D Dorian because it's the 2 chord of the C major scale. This is in the key of C. Okay. So all the notes and the chords and the stuff that's organized around it is that. So if I'm playing something, let me see if I can get. I'll see if I have a backing track that's like that. I might have to change the key. But let me see if I have a backing track that's like a breathe style, because it's this perfect for this. I wish I had my looper pedal set up, but trust me, I worked a lot on the setup this morning and it did not go well. So that's the last thing you want me to try and do now. Oh, good, I do have something here. Oh, ha. And I've got it in my band in a box so I can change the key. So I'm going to change it to D Dorian. I think it's in E Dorian originally. But let's play it in D Dorian. So I'm going to change it to we'll change it to the key of C. Yeah. All right, so here it is right here. And I'll show you what it is. There we go. Okay, so it's a little heavy drums for Pink Floyd, but all right, so this is D Dorian, right? Same as C major scale. Because those chords fit into the C major scale. D is the 2 chord, and G is the 5 chord. Okay, so I was just kind of playing C major scale stuff. But that's for soloing, right? Let's just talk about rhythm. I can land on any, now it's a little bit trickier because it's not just a vamp, but I can float from my D minor to the G7 using any chord I want in between. So for example, that's in the C major scale. So I could play D minor, and I could play that C in between it. I could play the D minor and come up to E minor and then play the G7. It doesn't sound so good because E minor is almost the same as G7, so it doesn't give a lot of movement. I could play the D minor and then play F major, C major, G7. That sounds pretty good, but again, F major is kind of the same as D minor, isn't it? So here's another thought. I just noticed something, right? I didn't really just notice it, but that F major is very similar to a D minor, right? In fact, an F major triad is a D minor 7 chord without the bass note. So what I could do is just play F major and G. Right? G being the thing that I land on. So let's see how that sounds when I play it. It might not sound so good because I'm not locked into with the rhythm, but we'll try it. get the picture. I can throw in other chords that are there. Sorry. You know, and here I'm only playing majors, even though there's a D minor there. As long as the bass is there and some other stuff is giving me some support, I can get away with doing it. Now when I solo, I can use that same idea of the F and the G. I don't have to strictly say it's all D minor and G7 there, or it's D Dorian. It all just works. It all just works. So yeah, I wonder if I have a better. Thing here. Backing track. Play a little bit. Oh yeah, this is maybe better. I don't know what key it's in. We'll have to find it. I think it's in E minor. E Dorian, Willie. Cool. Too fun, too fun. All right, folks. Well, I hope you enjoyed the lesson today. That's not really roots rock. That's just extra stuff. But definitely the stuff with Mike Campbell, all the sparseness, all that stuff's really important. Really important to get down when you're playing. Leave lots of space. Mike Campbell could make it breathe like nobody else could. He's still around. What else? I don't know what else I was going to say. Oh yeah, all the stuff with the Grateful Dead stuff. That was fun. So Richard, I don't know if you're still around, but yeah, good suggestion there. All right, folks, I will see you, I don't know, in a couple weeks, maybe a couple, let me know what you want to do. Let me know what you want to do. All I want to do is have some fun. Okay. I think I'm going to go on with the rest of my day. I'm just looking for the stuff here. Maybe I'll hang out with you guys. If you want to hang out for a little bit, you still have some coffee. I'm going to hang out with just a little bit. I'm going to see if I can show you. I don't know if I have. I'm going to see if I've got one here. Hold on a second. No, I don't. I was going to see if I can show you my visitor in the back there, but he's got his bed back there. He hangs out. Scotty, my dog, he likes hanging out with me now. I set up a bed in here for him. Maybe he's the one who's chewing all the cords. I don't know, but. That I've been using for years, I think is the main culprit. I was debugging it. Of course, it's after a Windows reset, but I think I've been using this for years. It's just an extension cord so I can put a speaker back there instead of close by when I play, so that the mic doesn't pick it up as much. Anyway, long story short, I think this was just cutting on. The microphone has its problems? Oh, you think the microphone is the problem? Okay. I don't know. I don't think so. I think the microphone's working well today. But I think it was this. When are we going to see on Norman's video? Norman who? I'm sorry. I'm a little slow. Norman who? I think that's what it is, though, the extension cable. Like the YouTube Shorts. Yeah, Shorts, Shorts are a nice way to get a little bit of an exposure to a different audience. People who watch Shorts are not as sticky. So it takes about, 100 views per short on a regular video. But if you like the Shorts, there's a lot of stuff that we do inside the member site they're basically based off the Shorts. I use the Shorts as kind of a coffee. Yeah, there you go, stacked hippie chick. Interesting. I use the Shorts as kind of a proving ground to see how do people like it. If people respond to it, if people share it, then I'm like, okay, maybe I'll do a longer video. Okay, yeah, Tall Paul, great to see you on today. Man, Paul, you've heard about like your buddies. They're both gone now. Ron died, and then Chris unexpectedly died. She got in a car accident. It was so tragic. I still think about her. She was such a nice person. I still think about her. She was on all the time. Gave me lots of tips here too, so I didn't have to beg people to do it. I just don't play that game anymore. I'm tired of it, but anyway. Good to see you today, for sure. You bet, XO Daddy OOX. Yeah, she died in a car accident. Her daughter contacted me with this email that was not clear at all. And so, she called a lot on the radio show. So I actually had her number. And so I texted her number and it was dead. And it didn't respond. It came back and it said this number doesn't exist anymore. And that was after her daughter had emailed me, but she emailed me under Chris's account, so it wasn't all that clear. So I then checked on her Facebook page, and yeah, she had died. Car accident. It's tragic, it really is. Really loved having her on. She was a great person. Yeah, they both were. Yeah. Ron too. I mean, Ron was always hilarious. He'd show up on a meeting, on a lot of our meetings, totally lit. I mean, it was rare where he didn't have like a couple of bourbons on him. That's right, Joyce. Yeah. It's so sad. It's so sad. Yeah, they're like if you go to her Facebook account, we were friends on Facebook too, which I never go to anymore. I try and avoid Facebook, but thank you, Mike. Uh, there were pictures of her with her grandkids, and she just had a birthday, and all of a sudden it just stops. And people posting, I can't believe it. Yeah. Yeah, Ron was definitely a trip. He uh, he ended up with one of my guitars I sent him. I signed it too. He got my Harley Benton Strat, the blue Strat. Not this blue Strat, but a different one. And he used that. His wife called me. I was on vacation in New Mexico. Oddly, I was seeing another member. It wasn't the only thing I was doing there, but my wife and I were out there. And there's a good friend of mine who I met in a membership. And I was out in New Mexico, and he lives in Albuquerque, and so we were going to meet each other. And I was on the drive down. I got this phone call. It was a woman sobbing. It was Ron's wife. Called me and told me Ron died. It was really sad. Yeah, and he was young too. I mean, he was like mid-60s. And apparently it was sudden. I mean, he had life habits that were perhaps not healthy, right? But it was still sudden, right? And he was somebody who regularly saw a doctor and was planning on playing a lot in retirement. And I was hoping to go and see him down in Florida. Didn't happen. Daniel, you are 100% right. You are 100% right on that. You got to value every moment. That's right. Oh. Yep. Oh. I think I am going to play a little bit and then we'll call it a day. Sunday morning chill. Or do we want to play a sort of a laid back Allman Brothers vibe? Maybe we'll play Sunday morning chill. I did. I shaved. Yeah. I shaved. You know, I did that last year. I shaved in the summer for a while, and I felt really good. And so, okay, gotcha, Mike. Gotcha, Mike. Norman's Rare Guitars. Okay, yeah, I don't think I'll be invited there. All right. Let's see. How do you like this guitar? Is it sounding okay? I'm digging it. This is not a Les Paul. You can tell because of the knobs, right? These are weird. They're like Telecaster knobs. But it's a Fesley guitar. And it's like a 59 Les Paul. It's heavy. It's not super heavy. It's like 9, a little over 9, which is heavy for me, but it's Les Paul light. But what I was going to say is the neck profile is a good, nice. It's not a skinny neck. It's a manly neck. No, it's like a late. It's like a 59 neck profile. It's not like a 60s neck profile. It's a little bit fatter. It's not a baseball bat, not by any means, but I've liked how it sounds, and plays great. Great fretwork. Feels great to play. Oh yeah, and I'm going to do a video on this, but it's also got this kind of stuff, which is nice, right? It's just nice to have. Oh, and this, which is also nice to have on a Les Paul. So there you go. Oh, really? Is that right, Jim C? Cool. Cool. That's neat. That's neat. Good. I mean, it's good to support stuff like that. Telecaster has that Les Paul sound. Whoa. Ah, yeah. No, it looks like that Larry Carlton, doesn't it? But no, I like how the Larry Carlton one looks a little bit better. It has the P90s and it has gold hardware. But I think this is pretty nice. It's pretty nice. And I honestly like the neck profile a little bit better. But anyway, let's play a little bit. We'll play Sunday Morning Chill. I'm just doing this by ear, folks. I don't know what the chords are, so. It's clearly a D minor. Go anywhere? Going anywhere. Let's put on something else. I want to hear something that kind of resolves in the chorus. So let's see what else we've got here that we can kind of wing it. Okay. All right, let's try the last one here and then we'll be done. Okay, yeah. This one I think I know. Yeah, that would have sounded great with a slide, I agree. But with a slide, man, you really got to know where you're ending. I was just guessing, so this one I know. This is this one fits because it's nice and Mixolydian, just like what we've been talking about. let's try playing something a little more melodic. All right, folks. Nice woodwork on the guitar room. Oh, floor moving. Oh, yeah, nice. This is, well, old school. Old school. This house was built in 1860, although this room was probably built in the 1970s. So it was built before we were there. Should new guitar players focus on improvising or learning songs already written? Great question. Great question. Valentin Molina. Great question. So, and sorry I didn't see it earlier. So should you focus on, well, there's a number of different things that you should do. But you got to play some songs that you like. You got to play some songs that you like because music is about enjoying yourself. So if you're writing, start writing some simple songs. Like I know a friend of mine who likes to write a lot. He lives in Bali. And he's actually a good guitar player now. But even when he wasn't really good, he liked to write. He'd write simple things. It was great. That's what he dug. He didn't like playing other people's songs. There were some exceptions. But if that's your bag, if you like that, you should learn how to do that. But you should sprinkle in some simple things. You know, a lot of guitar is mechanics. So getting comfortable with like when I talk about an idea, and I've got a video coming out on this. One of the ideas that we talked about today was this idea of triad pairs, right? So I could play this G, this F, this C. Now, I can just play those on those strings. I understand the concept. The concept is really simple. I'm just playing Fs and Gs. There's a G, there's an F, there's a G, there's an F, there's a G, there's an F, a G, right? There's an F, G, F, G, F, G, F, C, G, F, G. Concept's simple, but playing it is a different matter. Like you have to get comfortable doing it, and so that takes practice. So it's mechanical. So all the things like bends, you know, like a country bend like that where I'm going up and down. You know, something like that. It takes practice. It takes practice to do all sorts of stuff like that. And so it's a lot of it is just mechanical. And when you're starting out, you're going to get frustrated with syncing up your right and your left hand. So just be patient with all of it. There's so many different things that happen on guitar. That's why you should do a song, because a song is something that allows you to put things together once in a while. And a song is, you know how it's supposed to sound. So you should strive to make it sound at least kind of like that. This is me being a different teacher now, not a beginning teacher. There's a point of diminishing returns on that where people who focus on, I want to play it exactly, hurt themselves and stunt themselves. They never improve because they only can think like somebody else. But when you're beginning, it's okay to do that. Yeah, that's right. Take it easy. Was that. But you should do a mix of both. And improvising, you know, everybody starts out with the scales when they improvise, and that's fine. But the mistake a lot of people make is that they think that the scale is the song. Let me give you an example. Somebody the other day made a comment on, I was playing something in the BB box, and it was the song was in A, right? So it's kind of like the you know, kind of like that song that I was just playing. That was kind of like. That part. That it was kind of like that. So I was playing a BB box in A, and this person noticed very astutely that these notes are B minor pentatonic notes. I could play the B minor pentatonic play those notes. But I was calling it the BB box. Now the BB box has another note in there, but that's neither here nor there. That's neither here nor there. But they were confusing. They said this should be in the key of B minor pentatonic. Now that's a couple of no-nos there. First of all, B minor pentatonic is a scale, not a key. Those are two different concepts. A key is just the concept that it's something that tells you the organization of the song, the notes and the chords that make sense that you're going to be playing, right? And usually the key gives some indication of what the tonal center is, although not always. The chord that everything comes back to and revolves around. That's not always true, but it often is. But they confused it. And so and you're going to do this too, because I did it too. I'm not knocking on this person. It's constant. I start to think that the scale is the song. And then Jimmy Page is playing in A minor pentatonic. BS. He's not. Jimmy Page is playing what he played. He's playing music. A minor pentatonic describes what he's playing. That's it. Now, going forward, we think of it the other way. Instead of looking backward and saying, how did this happen? Let me describe it using theory, using a scale. When you improvise, you can go forward and say, okay, I'm going to use a scale as a framework to create music. Right? That's using it in reverse. And that's a problem that people have, especially beginners, but everybody has it. How do I create music out of a scale? Because they're not the same thing. And everybody knows this, but this is behind the mechanics of what's going on, is that we have convinced ourselves by looking backwards on things that things were made the other way around. And so when we try and make it, we try and use a scale to make it instead of trying to think. And I don't know if you noticed this, but I consciously did this. I didn't do it to show, but there was a point in that last one where I said, okay, let me get more melodic here. And I sat and I was thinking, I wasn't playing, and I sat and I was doing this. And then I went back and I started playing. And what I was trying to do is I was trying to think of something in my head that was a melody. As the chords were going by, I was literally thinking, do, 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 or whatever it was that I was thinking. But it was a melody. It wasn't, okay, now I've got the A minor scale, and now I've got this, and I've got this changes to A major. None of that. None of that. And when just starting, that's overwhelming. You can't do that. So you have to rely on simple things like a scale. And you say, okay, if this is a blues in A, somebody told me all these notes are good. Yeah. That's hard enough when you're beginning, trust me. So the next step is, okay, I've got to familiarize myself with those notes. The next step is like, how does my ear react to it, and how do other people hear when I'm playing this, right? So if I play a note, if I play this note over this chord, it sounds good, but if I play it over this chord, it doesn't. Uh-oh, So if that's a scale I'm using, how does that work, right? Or when I'm playing over this chord, landing on this sounds good, but when I'm playing this chord, landing on that doesn't sound good. It doesn't sound fulfilling to me. So maybe it's not just the scale. Maybe I've got to also listen to how the music is moving around me and react to that and play notes that sound good for we would say for the chords, but it's really for the harmony that's going around. We tend to think in chords, I think, because that's how we learn. We look at a sheet of paper and it has chords written. But, anyway, that's way too zen, I know, for most people. But, yeah, I can tell. We can do it on a future podcast for sure, but it's really simple. It's really, here's the simple idea. And we can talk about this for ethereal chill, that thing that I was just playing. When I'm changing on a chord, Okay, if I play this A major, it's an A major chord, sounds happy or whatever. I'm going to play an A minor chord. Now it's saying, sounds maybe sad or melancholy. I don't know how you want to describe it, but lugubrious, whatever you want to say, you know, whatever. Okay. The only thing that's different about that is the C sharp. One of them has a C sharp and one of them has a C. It's that simple. And it's easily seen when we play a triad. Let me go close. When I play a triad, you can see it. So here's my A triad associated with this chord, A major. And here's an A minor. So I just take this note and I move it down to here. See if I can show that more clearly. Major, minor. Okay. Now, there's other chords. We've talked about them. We've talked about dominant 7. There's a dominant 7. We talked about diminished. There's let's play an 8. There's an A diminished, right? There's a minor 7. A minor 7. There's a major 7. There's a 6th, 13th. You know, whatever. 9th. All those are different flavors, right? But the two main ingredients, the meat and potatoes of songs, and this is true of pretty much any genre, are the major and the minor. And the only difference there is the third of the chord. So when you emphasize the third of the chord, especially at a chord change, you're announcing to the world that you know the chord that's being played. That's what you're announcing to the world, and that's why you emphasize the third. It's that simple. And so I'll show you. Let's play this ethereal chill, and I'll emphasize the thirds. So I should talk about the chords first. So the chords, let me just kind of play through one. A, G, D, and A. Okay, so those are the chords right there, and that's a classic combo: A, G, D, and A, right? A makes a Lydian, right? It's all in the key of D. D is the 1 chord, G is the 4 chord, A is the 5 chord, but we're centering it on the 5 chord, right? This is the way my brain works on it. A makes a Lydian. Okay. And it's classic because it flows. You see how I'm just moving straight down? Sounds great, right? Or I'll move up instead. Don't have to, it sounds very organic when you do these chords, when you move them, as opposed to the bar, which is also fine, sounds good. Okay, so now, but there's a chord change in here, where it goes minor. So for over this, because everything's staying within key, and it's centering on the A, it goes A, then 2 other chords, then A again, I can just focus on A. And it works out okay. Now I can play the other chords if I want to, but I can just focus on A and it sounds good, right? Because it's going A, then G, then D, then back to A again. So A is the bookends on this. So I can just focus on hitting A notes and play whatever I want. This is one of the reasons why scales work, is because you can drive yourself batty by playing every chord if you want, and it's okay if you do, and I often do. I often do play stuff like that, but you don't have to. You can just play a scale and land on chord tones of A because it's bookends. And in the middle, you're not really landing. You're kind of playing in between lines, or maybe you play extended lines or something like that. But on the A's, you want to land on the A's. Okay, so far we're not talking about thirds. Oh no. I just lost the sound again. You can probably hear it, but I can't. Okay, I can hear it. Okay, that's where it was. Okay, so we're coming up to an interesting part soon. Hard stop. Okay, one more time. I think this is the A, the G, the D. Now it's going to go to different chords, and I'll show you what they are. Okay, right here, I think. A minor, G, D minor. Okay, so what do we do there? Here's where it's going to really make sense to emphasize the third of the chord. This is what Jim was asking about. We emphasize that third of the chord because it's going to tell everybody, you the listener, that, hey, I know what's going on. I can tell the chord changes. I can hear them. I hear what the rest of the band is doing. I'm responding to it. And the best place to do that is to note that chord. So I'll show you right away. We'll do it. And when we come back, I'm going to play that major third. I'm going to play that C sharp so clearly you'll hear it. And it's a signal that, oh, we're back to the original key. You'll hear it. People like when things are in sync. Let me see if I can do it the best I can. So anyway, that's the reasoning. That's the simple reasoning, is because it really tells you the difference between a minor and a major. And that's the thing that we most care about. Now, when I was playing these chords, keep in mind, this is also how my brain thinks. Like, I know there's a lot more complicated stuff going on in that backing track, but I can get a pretty good handle on what's going on just by using majors, minors, and occasionally a seventh or something like that. They're doing stuff like, keeping open things. Playing open notes, stuff like that. There's a lot of that stuff in the backing track that we were just listening to. Added ninths and suspended fourths and seconds and all that kind of good stuff. And it's all good. That's all fun. But when I'm trying to get a handle on what to do quickly, I'm all triads, I try and figure it out with triads, and usually they're the underpinnings anyway. So anyway, all right, folks, I am going to call it a day. Thanks a lot for joining. Man, this was a lot longer than I thought. It's after 12, so yeah, it's time to go. All right, we'll see you. We'll see you in a couple weeks. We'll see you in May. All right, rock on. Thanks everybody for coming.